Around 2 years after Elijah McClain's death, 5 people have been indicted. And as far as our research shows, it includes some of the first paramedics to face criminal charges for what they did when responding to a call. The debate over masks has Douglas County starting another debate about splitting up with the Tri-County Health Department. Tonight, families across Colorado are worried about if they can feed their families. There's a mobile food market that can help, and we have a chance to help as well. There's a university in Cripple Creek that's seeing triple the number of students, and they think the impact of 2020 is flexing its muscles. That's next. It's been 2 years since Elijah McClain died. His family was first told that those involved would not be facing any charges. They watched sweeping protests calling for justice, then multiple investigations opened. And 2 years after losing her son, Elijah McClain's mom said she wanted to see life in prison for those involved, but expected leniency. Today, Colorado's Attorney General announced a 32-count indictment against 5 people. This is including a former Aurora police officer, 2 more officers now suspended without pay, as well as 2 paramedics also now suspended without pay. All indicted facing 1 count of manslaughter and 1 count of criminally negligent homicide. All responded the night Elijah McClain never came home from his walk after a deadly encounter with Aurora police, who were responding to a call about a suspicious person when McClain had done nothing wrong. We're going to hear from McClain's mother in just a few minutes, but first wanted to offer a little bit of context. The 2 Aurora fire paramedics are facing more counts in the indictment than the police officers who stopped Elijah McClain that night. As far as we can tell, they're some of the first EMTs or paramedics in the country charged criminally for what they did during a call. Our Steve Steger takes a closer look.
So when the ambulance gets here, we're going to go ahead and give them all the ketamine.
It struck me that the paramedics were charged with more crimes.
The 2 Aurora fire paramedics who made the decision to inject Elijah McClain with ketamine that night 2 years ago were each charged with 11 counts in this indictment. Both Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chikuniak face manslaughter and criminal negligent homicide, just like the officers. But they also each were charged with 3 separate counts of second-degree assault and 2 counts of crimes of violence for each of those assault charges.
That points to something that happens in a lot of cases where the one action, which is administering the ketamine, satisfies the definition of 3 different parts of the assault section of the statute.
DU law professor Ian Farrell says he can't think of another case where paramedics or EMTs were charged criminally for their actions during a call like this. Plenty have been charged for not doing enough to help someone, though this is rare.
The goal of this, I imagine, from a sort of policy perspective, would be not to make paramedics nervous, but to, I guess, alter or inform the relationship between paramedics and police officers.
Farrell says the argument prosecutors will attempt to make about the paramedics boils down to 2 things. First, the dose of ketamine they chose to administer was too much for McClain's body weight, which the paramedics never really determined. And second,
the argument of the government will be they appear not to have invoked or used their own independent medical judgment as to whether or not ketamine was appropriate, and instead simply deferred to what the police officers asked and or told them to do.
Now, the 2 big charges against the 3 police officers and these 2 paramedics are manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide. In order to prove manslaughter, Farrell says prosecutors will have to prove each defendant was aware that what they were doing had a substantial risk of causing death. For the criminally negligent homicide charge, you don't have to prove that they knew the risk. You only have to prove that a reasonable person would understand that risk, Anusha.
And we heard this throughout the day, including from the Attorney General, that this is going to be a tough case to prosecute.
The Attorney General said that. You got to think back to the original case here, when the DA looked at the autopsy in this case, didn't feel that there was enough to charge this case against the police officers and the paramedics at the time. You got to think the defense will try to use that in their argument as this goes to trial.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Steve. For months, they had chanted his name as they marched through the streets of Denver and Aurora. The social justice movement we saw last summer focused heavily on demands to get justice for Elijah McClain. It's raising the question whether we'd be reporting the same news today if people hadn't taken to the streets last year. Here's Mark Salinger.
His name was chanted for hours as protesters marched for miles.
I'm thankful that we're here, but it was not an easy road.
Marching, demanding the officers involved in Elijah McClain's death face justice.
An indictment is a step, but it's not the finish line.
Quincy Shannon was at the center of organizing many of the marches last summer, protests that may have made today's indictment possible.
I do not believe that we would be where we are as far as this indictment, or even with the multiple people who know Elijah McClain's name, if it would not have been for the multitude of people who came out.
On November 22, 2019, Aurora police announced that no criminal charges would be filed against the officers involved in McClain's death, per the determination of District Attorney Dave Young. Months later, protests began in June of 2020. On June 25th of last year, Governor Jared Polis signed an executive order to have the Colorado Attorney General investigate McClain's death. That investigation eventually led to the grand jury indictment.
I don't believe that we would be here today if 4,000 or 5,000 people weren't showing up every time.
Candace Bailey is an activist who also organized many of the protests. She's now running for Aurora City Council. Today's news brought her to tears.
Our hope has been renewed. Our hope has been renewed.
All the protests, all those chants, today was a step towards the justice they're still fighting for.
If anything, hopefully this shows showing up is important. Speaking up is important, even when the cards are against you.
For Next, I'm Mark Salinger.
Today, we heard from the Aurora Police Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 49. They are the official collective bargaining unit. Their spokesperson said that they trust in the judicial process and stand by the officers, and said that they are innocent until proven guilty. Tonight, we also had a chance to hear from Elijah McClain's mom, who said that today's announcement about the indictment is matching what she already knew.
I'm thankful, I'm grateful that they saw what I saw. That he never should have been stopped, that he never should have been brutalized, he never should have been handcuffed, and he never should have been given ketamine.
So, Alex, you have had the chance to talk to Elijah's mom over the last couple of weeks. And from your last story, which was actually before the Attorney General's announcement, one thing stood out, and she said she was hoping for a stiff punishment, but really what she was expecting was leniency. So what was her reaction today?
That was the very first question I asked her, and she said, she couldn't have any expectations. She wouldn't allow herself to expect an outcome. She just prayed about it. And she was shocked. She literally said she did not expect this reaction. She didn't expect strong charges. And we're talking about 32 indictments. And while she is extremely grateful, she smiled for the first time. I've got to know her over a couple of weeks, and she was just smiling from ear to ear. And I said, I've never seen you so jovial. She was like, yes, but I know that this is temporary because there's such a long road ahead, right? We're talking about 32 charges. You're talking about 5 defendants. It's a lengthy trial. And I also asked her, are you going to be there? Is this something that you want to be in that courtroom every day? And she said, absolutely. You better believe it. I'm going to be there every single day so these jurors can see my face. Yeah,
that judicial process is long, and it's trying for the families too. And I was curious about, does she understand the magnitude of her voice? The world was waiting to see what would happen, and she did not let her son's death go quietly. What did she say about that?
Well, we wouldn't be sitting here, we wouldn't be talking about an indictment if she just said, it's okay, what happened. I'm going to be loud about this, because we can't forget that people didn't care about this at first. Nobody cared about what happened to Elijah McClain. The media, we didn't give this the attention it deserved. It took George Floyd. It took a summer of unrest. It took Shaneen McClain saying, no, I want justice for my son. And she has done so much for the state of Colorado. She, her testimony has been a part of 3 different police accountability bills. We have some of the strongest police accountability laws in the nation because Shaneen McClain did not let her son's death go away quietly. And now when you look at this indictment, now this becomes personal. She's done so much for the state, and now this is her son. She's not Shaneen the activist. This is Shaneen the mama wanting justice for her baby.
Yeah. and she has some incredible insight just as a mom and just the love she had and how proud she was of her son, both in life and death. There's a lot more from her that we'll be hearing tonight, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to sit down and just really kind of dive into everything that she's been through, what today meant for her, and really looking ahead. Like we said, this is step one. So that's tonight at 9 and 10.
All right. Thank you so much, Alex. We appreciate it.
There are families struggling with putting food on the table. 1 in 3 Coloradans experience food insecurity. We're working to change that in this week's Word of Thanks. And Tri-County Health could be downsizing. At least that's what DougCo leaders are looking at after voting today to get the ball rolling on a breakup. And 2020 felt like it was spiraling.
Best time to teach survival is during a time when everybody's thinking survival.
Coloradans are preparing. Next.
Hey everybody, I'm away this week, but your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaigns roll on with unstoppable generosity, $4.25 million and counting. I love this week's featured nonprofit because they're solving 2 problems at once. Your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign this week supports We Don't Waste. It's a longtime nonprofit that reaches out to restaurants and other food providers to get unused food and quickly get it to families in need around our community. They get that food out to nonprofits, and they run mobile food pantries in a number of neighborhoods where access to fresh, nutritious food is tough to find. Right now, they're running 6 to 7 mobile pantries a month. With our help, if they can raise $50,000 through Word of Thanks, they can add an entirely new location serving another neighborhood in the metro area. Text THANKS to 303-871-1491, and I will send you the link to join me in giving. As always, I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us started. We don't waste, making sure that restaurants don't have to throw good food away and making sure that families in our community have access to that fresh, nutritious food.
Not as It's warm, highs in the upper 80s today, but smoke and haze an issue that will be with us over the next couple of days. Even with abundant moisture coming in from the southwest, we're still seeing that thick smoke move into Wyoming and northern Colorado. All eyes on the western slope, flash flood watch for slow-moving storms that may bring heavy rain over some of the burn scar areas. And that heavy rain will cross Denver, and we'll see some of those scattered showers right here in the city tonight. Scattered heavy rain showers a part of our forecast tonight, tomorrow, and portions of Friday. Before we get into a nice holiday weekend with temperatures cooler, low 80s for Thursday and Friday with a good chance of rain from storms, and then comfortable 80s for the upcoming weekend.
We just learned that 4 of the 5 indicted today in Elijah McClain's death have now turned themselves in. You are taking a look at the mugshots of former Aurora officer Jason Rosenblatt and current Aurora officer Nathan Woodyard, as well as paramedics Jeremy Cooper and Peter Chikuniak. They turned themselves in to Glendale police today, and officers tell us that they were processed, posted bond, and released. There's no word on the other officer. Douglas County is looking to speed up its split with the Tri-County Health Department. The 3 Republican commissioners told their staff today to draft a resolution to create an independent health board for the county and to let Tri-County Health know that Douglas County is out. The resolution would give the commissioners 90 days to appoint their own health board with 5 members or more. They are making this move after Tri-County Health eliminated a provision that allowed counties to opt out of their public health order, saying the need for masks in schools was too pressing. DUCO commissioners did not want the mask mandate in their county, so the commissioners are going to be holding a public hearing on this very issue next week. If they do create their own health board, the county would likely still contract with the Tri-County Health for environmental health needs like restaurant inspections through at least the end of the year. Mesa County commissioners agreed to a meeting today about last year's election that ended kind of maybe how you guessed. Sharona Bishop, the former campaign manager for Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, requested a meeting with the 3 Republican county commissioners to show proof of election fraud. She presented no proof of election fraud.
You have these images I've never seen before and after that show our elections were compromised and that logs were removed. Right. I thought we'd be looking at these images today. Do you have them?
So as Mr. Strew knows, there is an investigation taking place right now, and there are people in this district right now that believe that to have these images is criminal. And so those images are not going to be provided here today.
The machines in question were audited by the state. The only firm evidence they were compromised is when Republican clerk Tina Peters allowed unauthorized access to the machines with the surveillance cameras turned off. That is being investigated by the FBI as well as the district attorney's office.
We have learned a lot about living through a pandemic, but that's not the only lesson more Coloradans were after.
But if you do get yourself in a tricky situation, you have the knowledge to get through the night.
While some were stocking up on toilet paper and arguing about masks, others were sharpening their survival skills. We'll show you how next.
The long list of life-changing events that happened in 2020 had people preparing for the worst. The Survival University in Cripple Creek can attest to that. They saw 3 times as many people attending their classes in 2020 when you compare it to 2019. So we decided to head out to Cripple Creek to figure out what's going on.
Bushcraft, a lot of people think of as a silly hobby. We're going to go outside around the campfire and whittle spoons.
All right, here we go.
And you say survival, and it sounds scary.
I'm going to generate some dust. I'm going to have you guys come over and kind of take a look at it.
What we do is not scary. We are at our main camp in Cripple Creek, Colorado. We are out here today with a bunch of students from all over the nation teaching our beginners survival class.
I'm going to bring them to each other. I'm going to pick this up. Got my amber in there. I'm now going to manipulate it carefully and gently.
I guess they're getting their feet wet into the realm of survival.
There it is. Ta-da!
You should always go out with the mindset that you're going to have to spend the night. From my background, I'm not military. I come from corporate America. I just happen to have all these skills from growing up, and I created the Survival University. I think that a lot of people have seen with how things kind of fell apart with COVID, that our society isn't as stable as they thought it was going to be or should be. But we're going to move on to shelter. We are going to teach you some knots.
Like that, right? Now this is a pretty darn strong knot. It may twist on you a little bit, but it's not going anywhere.
We pretty much knew like zero. You know, I've never tied the type of knots. You know, obviously you tie knots in your shoes, but no knot tying.
Now you have to take and get this underneath and through here.
Or get naughty in the woods.
Exactly.
Best time to teach survival is during a time when everybody's thinking survival.
Here we go.
Yay!
And we're the first step in that.
Get naughty in the woods. Awesome.
That story was told through the lens of photojournalist Foster Gaines. Well, tonight we have a chance to put dinner on empty tables across Colorado. We had the chance to work together. While some of us may have just finished dinner, or maybe you're just about to sit down for dinner, 1 in 3 Coloradans actually don't even have the opportunity to do that. A third of Coloradans are experiencing food insecurity. It's something a nonprofit called We Don't Waste is working to combat. The organization is taking excess food from restaurants and then giving it to people in need through mobile markets. Those markets have supported nearly 5,000 families in the Denver metro area just last year. Your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign this week is going to help expand all of that work. So all you have to do is text, make sure you text us, thanks, to 303-871-1491. We're going to send you the link to join in and helping out our neighbors. So far, we've had just over $5,000. Your generosity is always stunning, and we thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time.